Next.
Be here from 1 to 4 p.m. I'm Anita Blanton here in Studio 32, and we have plenty of things to get to. But NASA is doing a press conference on 2 upcoming spacewalks to make upgrades to the International Space Station. I just want to let you know, as soon as they begin that, we're going to go to that live. So there are several different live events that are happening right now, but as soon as that one begins, we know we have a lot of folks here that love to hear about what NASA is doing. So we'll try to get to that just as soon as possible. Maybe we can do a little bit of a round robin at some of the other things that we're looking at right now. There also is testimony going on Capitol Hill, as this is the 5th anniversary of January 6th. And then this is the committee there. You can see Representative Chuy Garcia kind of in the right-hand portion of your screen there. But they have been hearing testimony from, in the last maybe 10 minutes or so, attorneys general from several states, including Illinois. Let's listen into this for just a moment.
What each of you think Republicans should do when they see what is coming out of the current administration, and where should the Republican Party go after Trump to help restore American democratic institutions? Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you for the question. I made the decision to leave the party altogether and to move on to a better place to call home, a better place to meet the needs of Georgians. Like I said in my statements, it gives me a much better toolkit every morning when I wake up to not drive by that hospital and see a scared family because they don't have health insurance walking in there knowing they're going to bankrupt their family, or driving by that school and having to blame the teachers, or trying to justify anything that Donald Trump does. I think that Republicans are in the midst of a crisis right now. A crisis of epic proportion. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene's leaving, as it appears. But they're in a crisis because nobody can explain Donald Trump. Nobody wants to explain Donald Trump. Nothing makes sense. And so for me, I think we need to wake up and want to solve problems. I'll say this. The job of president has the least effect on any of our lives, average Americans. Right? They don't determine the president doesn't determine what your kids learn in school right away, or how much traffic you sit in, or how safe your neighborhood is. But the president sets the tempo for the country. And this country is desperate for a role model, for somebody who gets up every day, slightly left, slightly right, you pick it. But somebody who's a role model, who's respectable and honest, and sets an example for kids and college kids and students and entrepreneurs and retirees and military officials. Sets the example for everybody. That's what this country is in desperate need of. Donald Trump's not that example.
Mr. Attorney General, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mr. Chairman, there are some matters that I do collaborate with my Republican counterparts on consumer protection and other matters. However, this area of executive overreach is one that I would hope that I would wish that they would partner with us, but they have not, because the traditional values that Republicans have advocated for, state sovereignty, the 10th Amendment used to be their thing, but they've been silent. The cases that we've filed, those to preserve education funding, have not been cases filed just that impact blue states, but they impact red states as well. The Congress, you all have put conditions on making sure that critical cancer research, Alzheimer research at NIH is appropriately funded. This does not only impact research institutions in blue states, but it also impacts research institutions in red states. And so we have 23 Democratic attorney generals stepping up to the plate when in fact it should be all state attorney generals stepping up to the plate to protect the citizens of all 50 states from the executive overreach that we've seen from this administration.
Thank you so much. Ms. Perriman.
I think the president and his allies in this Congress and the Republican Party need to understand that people are watching and that history is watching. And the Republican members of this body, as well as any member of this body, has to understand in this moment that this is a moment where history will look back to see, is the Republican Party going to sit idly by while this democracy completely backslides into an autocracy? Or is it going to be part of the turnaround? There should be no room in this body or any body across the United States for elected representatives that will not defend the right to vote, that will not decry violence, that will not defend free and fair elections, and yet we have a president and his allies that are trying to use the machinery of the federal government to undermine free and fair elections and to undermine people's basic constitutional rights, literally disappearing people. Right now at Democracy Forward, we have attorneys that are in courtrooms across this country arguing right now to try to have to preserve programs that are keeping infant mortality rates down and programs for
Okay, so we were listening in there to, again, this January 6th committee and House Democrats who have called on several different lawmakers, including our own Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, to speak on where things have gone since January 6th and their feelings now that we have come now these 5 years since, and the issues that they still see as present since then. Let me turn your attention to what's going on in Texas. There is a press conference going on to what has become a pretty high-profile case down there from December. The parents and attorneys for a young woman whose body was found, a Texas A&M student, just 19 years old, who allegedly fell to her death from a high-rise apartment building in Austin. Now the parents have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against two organizations that allegedly served her alcohol before the incident. Let's listen into this.
Everyone, to be careful what you read and whether you believe it, because most of the stuff that you see on Facebook, Instagram, and the other social media sites is nothing but pure junk. It's been 30 days. In that time, we've expended substantial resources working to find the truth about what happened to Breonna Aguilera on the night of November 28, 2025. We've engaged two different private investigation firms. The investigation firm of HRG Investigations even volunteered to take on this matter pro bono, and they've done a wonderful job of finding and interviewing witnesses and recovering data that we believe will be key to understanding what happened on that fateful night. Today we have with us Joel Gonzalez and Donovan Harmon of both of these two different investigation firms. They, along with us, have expended more than 200 hours investigating this matter, talking to witnesses, running down video, and et cetera. But there's a lot more work to do. But I want to personally thank them on behalf of this family for this important work. Now, I'm going to do something that's a little unconventional. You may recall that the last time we were together, I told you that we had already found witnesses that, turn that around if you don't mind, Ryan. We'd already found witnesses that absolutely demonstrate that the timeline.
So her parents and the attorneys there are challenging the Austin Police Department's investigation. Their ruling was that her death was a suicide, and they called, now the family and the attorneys are calling for the Texas Rangers to take over the case instead of the Austin Police Department. As you can hear them saying, they have been trying to do their own homework here to pull together a list of witnesses and things of that nature to try to again turn this case into a different direction than what the Austin Police Department initially gave to the people who were in that area there. Again, about this death of Breonna Aguilera, and now they have a $1 million lawsuit against two organizations there that the family and the attorneys there believe served her alcohol before she met her untimely fate. So we're continuing to watch that situation, but I did promise you that as soon as the NASA press conference began, we would get there, and now they have started.
Demonstration that they want to do with the HTVX vehicle. HTVX arrived carrying 4.4 tons of supplies and research to the ISS. And then we're looking forward to the launch of NASA's SpaceX Crew 12 in February. That'll send astronauts Jessica Meir, Jack Hathaway to the station, along with ESA astronaut Sophie Ardno and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fadeev. This will be the second flight for both Jessica and Andrei, and Sophie and Jack's first flights each. That launch is targeted for February 15th today. We continue to celebrate, as we go here, the International Space Station's 25 years of continuous human presence. We're advancing scientific knowledge and demonstrating new technologies that enable us to prepare for human exploration of the moon as we prepare for Mars. Station's design requires humans living on board to maintain, operate, and upgrade it. So these commercial crew missions that come up, as we talked about with that, are very important to the mission. As you can see, we have to do some maintenance outside too, so we'll be going out and doing some spacewalks. Given the proximity of the holidays, I want to send a special thank you to the entire team that supported the development work associated with these spacewalks, all the preparation work that has gone into it, as much of that occurred over the holiday season, and the team's dedication always amazes me, and we are ready to go for these upcoming spacewalks. For more details, I'll hand it over to our flight directors. For the first EVA, Deanna.
Great, thank you, Bill. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about EVA 94. As Bill just said, we are very grateful and very excited to be doing this EVA, and grateful to the team who has been working so hard to get us to this stage through the holidays. We will start with the team, so we could please go ahead and cue up the slide. Okay, our first slide will be the team as you can see it here. We got Farouk will be our EVA flight controller lead. At the same time, we have two of our astronauts. The first astronaut going out, which is with the red stripes, is Mike, just as Bill mentioned. And then Zena will be our second astronaut. If we can please go ahead and, perfect, thank you. So there he goes, you got the pictures of them. Let's go for the next slide, please. And the next slide, please. Okay, so to talk about really what we're going to do here, if you can cue the next one as well. Excellent, thank you. All right, so if we look at the station itself and we take a giant step back, the location where we're gonna go do these activities today, actually on January 8th, is on the 2 Alpha area, which is the port side of the space station. So we're gonna come out of the airlock and we're gonna translate to the 2 Alpha port side of the station where we will go over a few items. One of them is our primary activities, the modification kit, which, as Bill mentioned, is a structure that's going to be holding the solar arrays themselves. We will also have, perfect, that's a slide where you can see the modification kit. What we're going to do with the modification kit here is we're going to put 3 of the struts, the color struts that you see, the blue, the red, and the green one. As we are assembling that, it will take us about 4 hours and a half to complete that activity in a nominal case. And then after that, one of our astronauts, in this case Mike, will move to another activity, which it will be a jumper cable activity. The jumper cable activity will be an installation that we're going to have to increase our redundancy on our power system. In addition to that, that's great, that's a good image. So as you can see on the right side of the station, there's a few activities that are listed there. 2 Alpha mud kit on the right side of the image, then you will see the DDCU cable, which is the second ellipse in the image, and then after that, you'll see that Zena will be also working in parallel to Mike on the torque resets. What that means really is that Zena is going to go to the boxes that you see in here on the bigger ellipse. She's going to undo the torque of a few boxes that we have in there, which are our battery boxes, and then redo the torque at a lower value. The intent there with that is to position us or put us into an advantaged position so that in the future, if needed, robotic operations can come in and remove the boxes. By her changing the torque value, it will enable those operations. Once we complete everything in the port side, what we're going to do then is to now return to the airlock. At the airlock itself, we will be doing 5 samples of the microorganisms. So let's go over that. Thanks for putting that up. For the microorganisms, just like Bill mentioned, we will be swabbing 5 different locations, all of them at the airlock area. The first image that you see on the right of the slide from me is a swabbing right at the edge of the airlock door, the hatch itself. Then we're also going to do a swab on the cover of the hatch itself as well, and then we're going to swab as well the glove. Those are 3 samples that I'm showing you there, but we're going to double some of them, which is why it accounts up to 5. After we complete that activity, Zena and Mike will return back into the airlock, and EVA 94 will have been completed. Now we're going to play a video for you all so you can see all the activities that I just described from end to end. If we can please cue it up. We will begin the day with our crew members Mike and Zena egressing the airlock with their strut bag and the cable bag. Both crew members will translate to the port side of the station, where most of the EVA work sites are located for the day. The crew will begin.
Okay, big thanks from NASA here as they are gearing up for the astronauts to conduct 2 spacewalks in January to do some repairs and upgrades at the International Space Station. This video is kind of walking you through exactly what they're going to be doing. The first one of those spacewalks is scheduled to take place on January 8th. The second is supposed to be taking place on January 15th. And of course, NASA's first human moon mission in 50 years could be 1 month out. So there's a lot of activity in the new year coming from NASA that we'll continue to cover, as we know so many of you like. Now, let me tell you about some of the other things that we have coming up. As I told you, there's a lot that kind of happened just as we were coming on for this broadcast for Chicago Live. A few other things that we're expecting in this hour: flu activity in the state. It has climbed to a very high status in recent days. So the Illinois Department of Public Health is now sounding the alarm, and they're going to be talking about the rise in cases, including the recent death of a child. We have a local doctor who is going to be talking a little bit about what we all can do, of course, and how things took a turn for the worse in this area so quickly for this season. Also, when people hear of a private equity firm that's come in to take over a business, many start to question whether that means the mentality there is going to switch to a profits first, people last approach to business. Sprinkles cupcakes that we know a lot of people love. That company, known for its treats and iconic cupcake ATMs, it's no more. And now some say that the future of Walgreens is also looking pretty grim too. So I'm talking to the executive director of the Private Equity Stakeholder Project about that. And do you believe? That's the big question this week. Do you believe that the Bears can do it again? Let me finish that sentence there. Cassie Carlson is joining me now because we're getting ready for a big game this weekend. You can watch it on Saturday on Fox Chicago. Cassie, what are you hearing in your conversations thus far about what's going on at Hallis Hall to get us ready for Saturday?
Well, I mean, I don't know. If you need to have conversations to get you ready for this game, I think something's wrong with you, because this is the highest stakes game many of these players have ever played in, as they are going to see the Packers for a third time in nearly a month. And now it's win or go home in this wild card game. And while the Bears have home field advantage playing at Soldier Field, Green Bay is riding a 4-game losing streak. They're still favorited to win this game, which is kind of crazy, thinking that they're the 7th seed and where they're at in their season right now. And just the way the first 2 games this season have gone, both coming down to the final play of the game, them splitting, both winning their each game at home. It's going to be a crazy night at Soldier Field on Saturday in the highest stakes game of the season. And so the Bears, they're riding a 2-game losing streak. We know that they kind of came out flat against the Lions and couldn't pull off a 7th comeback this season. They said that they're basically channeling that frustration into energy and urgency, because right now, if you can't get up for this game, you probably shouldn't be here. And so they all know that they need to get back into their routine and they need to show up from the jump Saturday night.
You know, they did so much work in the off season to put together from the top down this team that has gotten further than they have in several years. And so there's still a lot to be proud of in just making it this far. But as you said, so much that's riding on this game. Are we healthy? You know, that's always my big question.
Yeah, so I think the biggest question is going to be the status of Kyler Gordon, their nickelback, coming back potentially off IR for this game and being available. He was basically, the practice window was open today so he can get back on the practice field. He's one of those crucial players that they extended this past offseason, one of the more athletic players on that defense. And now the concern is even bigger for him to return because CJ Gardner-Johnson went down last week and he's now in concussion protocol, which is at least a week long. So they're going to need some bodies on defense, and especially against a Packers offense that can put up some explosive plays with Jordan Love, who's going to make his return after being out since he was concussed against the Bears a couple weeks ago. And I think right now that is going to be the biggest area that we're looking at to see if this defense can come up with stops, because it's been hit or miss. And a lot of what Ben Johnson has said this week is, while they've given up and allowed a ton of yards on defense against a lot of these teams, they're more concerned about the points. It's this bend, don't break mentality that this defense has. And while we thought the secondary was going to be the strength of this team going into the season, it's really become a little bit weak at points in this season, especially down the stretch. So knowing that Green Bay has a ton of weapons on the outside with their wide receiver core, Jordan Love is really good against the blitz when he has pressure in his face. Kyler Gordon could be a huge boost for them to get on this defense. It's also worth managing expectations because it's really hard for a guy to be on IR for 4 weeks after getting injured and then coming back and playing the week he returned. So I don't know how likely it is that he would play Saturday, also given the fact that they're on a short week. Then on offense, you're looking at the status of Rome Odunze, who returned to practice last Friday, didn't end up playing in the Lions game, but he was their number one receiver for the majority of the season, came in with Caleb Williams a year ago, and Caleb Williams said he texted him when he went down in pregame warmups in that game, and he said, I'm on your side, it's going to be good, you're going to make it back for the playoffs. And so Caleb sounded like Rome is coming back. And so that would be a huge boost for this offense, which has shown to have a lot of weapons as well.
You mentioned when they came in last year, when they entered into Bears Nation, Bears country, there was a different head coach. And that head coach went on to Dallas, and yet the same fate has met him there. He just got cut loose again, Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus spent 1 year as the defensive coordinator with the Cowboys, and it was one of the worst defenses in the league. And you never want to root for a coach getting fired, so I'm never going to do that. I think Matt Eberflus was put in a bad spot given the fact that he incurred a defense that had lost their superstar right before the season started when they traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. And I remember listening to a handful of press conferences with Matt Eberflus, especially when the defense is struggling, and basically saying, if we had that guy on this team, this would be a totally different defense. And so I think he was put in a tough situation in that sense. You were also, the Cowboys, they're under Jerry Jones, and that guy runs the team, and he owns the team, he runs the team. And I used to work in Texas, and people would always say, as long as he's running the team, they will never be extremely good or win a Super Bowl. And I think you had an offense under Dak Prescott, who was one of the best in the league this year. They were extremely high powered, and the defense just couldn't balance that out. So unfortunate for Matt Eberflus, who a lot of people still considered a good, or probably would be a better defensive coordinator after he was fired from Chicago, not really cut out to be a head coach. So now it'll be interesting to see what direction his career goes in.
Do you think there's anyone that around the league, there are several openings around the league now. Do you think they're looking at Chicago to try to snag anybody?
That's what happens when you're good. It's kind of like a good problem to have, but it also can really change a coaching staff. I think you look at names right now, and the defensive backs coach, Al Harris, is one of the names that comes to mind, and has kind of been floated around the league of maybe he'll get a chance to be a defensive coordinator somewhere as his squad is leading the league in takeaways. He's a former player, so players really gravitate towards him. The fact that he can just coach things, and even Dennis Allen has said at times this year that he's really relied on Al Harris to kind of get more information of how a player's mind works and some things that you might see as a player or how he can relate to them. And so I think he's in a very valuable spot in that sense. Granted, the secondary has not been playing too well down the stretch. The other person would be interesting, could be Declan Doyle, the offensive coordinator, because he doesn't call plays in Chicago. So I could see him getting a chance elsewhere to maybe be an offensive coordinator where he would be able to call plays on game day. That would be a natural next progression for him. But he's also someone who could want to stay and learn under Ben Johnson for another season. He's, I think, 28 years old, very, very young. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason, but it's a good problem. It means you're having success if other teams are wanting your coaches.
Absolutely. That's how we got our Ben Johnson. So let's go back to the game on Saturday. Obviously, short turnaround to get ready for Saturday, as you mentioned, coming off of a loss. But what do you think, if we win, what it says about our team moving forward? And if we don't, if we come up short, what that will say.
I think, right now we're so in the moment with the Bears, right? Because the city lives and dies by the results on Saturdays and Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays in the NFL and what the Bears do. And the matter of fact is they went 11-6 with under Ben Johnson in his first season, under Caleb Williams in his second season, learning an entirely new offense. They had 6 comeback wins in the fourth quarter, which I think ties an NFL record. And so I think if you were to tell everyone back in last January, where we were last year, a year ago, that this would be the position that the Bears were in, it would be really hard to believe. And I even think when the schedule came out, a lot of people thought 9 wins, maybe you're a wild card team, maybe you're 9 wins and you miss the playoffs, but you feel good because you know that you have the right head coach and you feel like Caleb Williams has showed progress. I think right now the Bears have already exceeded their expectations for this season. Granted, they've also proven that they are a good team in the NFC and they have the potential to go on and make a run. And so I think the hard part is the opponent. Them playing the Packers in the first round, because that just adds this whole other level of emotion to the city and all the fans who have seen this go and pretty much be one-sided up until this season, it feels like. And after the walk-off overtime win against the Packers a couple weeks ago, the narrative was it feels like the tables have turned in this rivalry and the Bears are now on the better side of it. But now you're looking at a team who kind of fell off the last 2 weeks, and it was the defense where you don't really feel like they can get stops when they need to at all times. And I think when you talk about playoffs, the big concern is that good defenses typically go far in the playoffs, and the Bears just haven't shown that consistently right now. Now, granted, on the other side, they also say if you can run the ball, you can go far in the playoffs, and the Bears can run the ball. They have the 3rd best rushing offense in the league, and they didn't run the ball necessarily well against the Lions last weekend behind the offensive line. I think that's something that they will be looking at heavily heading into Saturday, and they're going to hang their hat on the identity of their team, which is going to be to run the ball. So I think it's tough because it's such an emotional rivalry game, too, in the sense the Bears are the 2 seed. They didn't win the division by going out and winning games. It was kind of, a secondhand way to win the division. Same thing with getting into the playoffs. So I think this is a moment for the Bears to show that they can go out there and they can win it. And maybe they are a team that can make a run in the playoffs. Kevin Byard had a really good comparison. He said one of his first seasons in Tennessee, they made a run to the AFC Championship, and they were told at the beginning of the playoffs or beginning of the season, essentially, that the team wasn't complete yet. They didn't have all the pieces they needed to make a run, and then they went out and did it. He's like, it is really like all these games come down to 1 or 2 plays. You don't know which one is going to be the deciding play in a game. And so who's to say who can make a run and who can't in the playoffs? It's a new season for all these teams. And honestly, neither the Packers nor the Bears really have momentum, and the Bears do have home field advantage.
Yeah, 1 or 2 plays and penalties.
Yeah, I know. That has been like the crux of the team at the beginning of the season. They figured it out for the middle, but it showed up again last week. And so the team talked about that today. Those are basically mental errors, and they're like, you got to be able to clean those up quickly. And mental errors cannot show up in the playoffs because everything gets faster, teams are sharper, the intensity goes up. And so that's definitely something they're going to emphasize this week.
All right, Cassie Carlson, we appreciate you as always. And I'm sure we'll probably be, trying to snag you later in the week, too.
Please do. Big week for Chicago.
Before we let you go, what is your prediction for the game? I won't save that for later in the week. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, put on the spot on day one. Honestly, you're gonna have to come back to me on that. I haven't even thought about it yet because I feel like Tuesday, it's a shortened week. Today, it's like kind of reflecting back on last week and like just starting to look forward. So ask me on Thursday or Friday, and I'll have a better idea and better feel for how the week shakes out.
Totally understand. Marinate on it. We will call you back, but we definitely want it before the week ends.
Yes, of course.
All right, take care. It's about 1:30, everyone. Like we said, there's a lot going on today and a lot of emotion as we get ready for the big game this weekend. We're hoping for a Bears win. So we're going to be calling on our sports team throughout the week to give us some updates from Hallis Hall, and we certainly appreciate them in their busy day for taking out some time for us here on Chicago Live. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, 132 right now. Thanks for staying with us here. We hear a lot and report a lot about businesses coming and going, growing, downsizing, all different types of things that are shifting around in today's economy. I mean, just yesterday we were reporting on one of our local businesses that was right downtown that just suddenly closed at the start of a new year because of a lease. But then we also are reporting, and before we get out of here today, we'll be hearing an update on a major business that's coming to the south suburbs as well. So there's always a lot of giving and taking, going and coming happening when it comes to the world of business. But there is a common thought that when private equity firms get involved in a business, the business model shifts. The business model itself, the mentality shifts. I want to bring in Jim Baker. He is executive director for Private Equity Stakeholder Project. They're all about uplifting the voices of people directly impacted by private equity firms. To talk a little bit about what some are saying is a grim outlook even for the future of Walgreens, which is iconic here in Chicago and throughout the country. Jim?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, sometimes, we have talked about places like Sprinkles, that's much smaller than a Walgreens that's gone under recently. And a lot of people pointing to, well, you sold off to a private equity firm and now look where you are. But Walgreens is massive. How does it happen to a business of that size and significance?
Right. I mean, Walgreens is massive. It has 220,000 U.S. employees, right? It's been around for decades. A local Chicago institution, but one that's also has a massive presence throughout the country. But yeah, as you said, just months ago in August, we saw Walgreens taken over by a private equity firm, New York City-based investment firm called Sycamore Partners. And so they took it over, and they now control Walgreens. And this firm that took it over, we've seen, frankly, some concerning actions at other companies that they've acquired in the past that frankly raise concern about what's going to happen at Walgreens.
Yeah, and of course, there are the workers at Walgreens to be concerned about, but then also the thousands of people who get their medicine throughout the country from a pharmacy at a Walgreens as well. I mean, a Walgreens leaving an area can very quickly turn it into like a pharmacy desert. Exactly.
No, I mean, it's, I think thousands is probably an understatement, more like millions, right? Or maybe even more than that. That's a substantial concern if we see store closures under private equity. So, I mean, just as an example, the Sycamore Partners, the private equity firm that acquired Walgreens, also owns Staples. The retailer Staples. They bought Staples in 2017. Since then, they have closed 1/3 of Staples' U.S. stores. And so with that, laid off, thousands or tens of thousands of people. We did the math on it and found that if they closed a similar share of stores at Walgreens, that would be 70,000 lost jobs, and that would be, literally thousands of communities that would lose access to, critical healthcare services, easy access to prescriptions, et cetera.
Yeah, I mentioned Sprinkles cupcakes being another example. And in their comments under one of the videos that they posted, one person said selling to private equity was the beginning of the end. Has it ever spelled out anything different for a company? I mean, can you cite an example of a time when selling to a private equity firm didn't end up in its demise?
I mean, I would say it doesn't happen all of the time, but we did look at bankruptcies, large company bankruptcies I guess the year before last at this point in 2024, and found that private equity firms were responsible for 54% of large company bankruptcies.
Wow.
Right, that's companies that many of them brand names that you might have heard of, right? That they played a role in bankruptcies at Joanne Fabrics,
Yeah.
Red Lobster, what else? Steward Health System, a large health system, Genesis, nursing home chain. So these, gigantic companies that impact literally millions of people. We're seeing kind of bankruptcies because of the practices by private equity firms of, loading these companies with lots of debt, taking out large dividends for themselves, et cetera. Meanwhile, workers and communities are the ones that get the kind of raw end of the deal.
Yeah, and of course, in the case of Red Lobster, a new owner came in and has, at least foreseeably, changed the course of, or maybe changed the tide as it was rolling in the wrong direction for them. I believe Joanne Fabrics maybe has a new partnership now that, in some ways,
I think they're shutting down entirely. So it's varied, right? In some cases we have seen. So I think Joanne shut down. Toys R Us is obviously, it's a handful of years ago, classic example of, everybody remembers, Toys R Us, or many people remember Toys R Us from when they were a kid. But that's a classic example. In 2017, 2018, it was taken into bankruptcy by private equity firms and shut down. And, the 30,000 plus workers at Toys R Us stores lost their jobs. The company terminated the severance plan, et cetera. And then, all of a sudden you had this important resource that people no longer had. That's obviously a well-known brand, but I do think the hopeful case, as you kind of point out, is, they take these companies through bankruptcy, they're able to kind of reemerge, and under new ownership are able to kind of grow again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not always what we see, right? It's a sort of a mixed bag, and I'm going to stop there.
No. I mean, I think you were saying much of what I was thinking too. It was Michaels that I was trying to think of that's now
Michaels is
taken
one
over Joanne Fabrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Michaels is still in operation, and I think also owned by private equity at this point.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. When you are speaking to, or when those who are impacted by these types of situations come to your organization, I mean, what is the course of conversation like? What is your advocacy like? What happens when you all get involved?
Yeah, so an example I was talking about a minute ago, I'll use as an example in the case of Toys R Us several years ago when the private equity firms took it into bankruptcy. In that case, we, along with another nonprofit organization called United for Respect, worked to support Toys R Us workers in their efforts to win a hardship fund or a severance fund, right? So in that case, the company went into private equity firms took it into bankruptcy, and not only did workers learn that they were losing their jobs, but also learned that the severance plan that the company had in place had been terminated.
Wow.
And so, yeah, right. So this is, it's sort of insult to injury. And so in that case, we worked with Toys R Us workers to reach out to, to reporters, members of the media, to elected officials, to investors in these private equity firms, to press for, at least some sort of support. And we're able to win a $20 million hardship fund that got paid out in late 2018, early 2019 to Toys R Us workers. It only went part of the way, right? People still had to find new work, et cetera. But that's some of what we do is strive to figure out, are there ways to, provide support to people who are impacted by these large private equity firms coming in and taking over.
Yeah. Some people look at private equity firms and you think of corporate greed. But could it also be misconstrued as corporate survival? I mean, would these companies say, let's go back to your example of Toys R Us. I mean, if you really see that your company, your business model is not succeeding in a changing world, is it, their effort to try to survive?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a fair question. Part of what we saw in the case of Toys R Us was a similar model with private equity, where the private equity firms that own Toys R Us had, loaded it with hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars in debt, I think, and also taken out hundreds of millions of dollars in fees, interest, et cetera. So we're really kind of really starving Toys R Us for the capital that it needed in order to innovate and survive, kind of in this the kind of more challenging world that retailers face today. And so that's part of what we've seen from private equity firms is they're not necessarily interested in kind of the long-term success or long-term survival of these companies. They're more interested in kind of a quick turnaround or a quick profit, right? And so often they own companies for typically 3 to 5, 4 to 6 years at most, and are looking to do whatever they can to double or triple their money, double or triple their profits in that short period of time. And in a perfect world, that means the company that they buy, be it Toys R Us, Walgreens, et cetera, also ends up being more successful and growing jobs, et cetera. But often what we see is the opposite, is the private equity firm uses a substantial amount of debt to acquire the company. They sometimes add additional debt to pay themselves, basically to pull out dividends. So we saw this in the case of Sycamore Partners, the company that bought Walgreens. Like I mentioned, it bought Staples in 2017. 2 years later, in 2019, it took $1 billion dividend out of Staples. So it basically collected $1 billion for itself from Staples. And now the Mike Motts, the person who was the head of U.S. retail at Staples, now is the new CEO of Walgreens. So that's part of what has us concerned in the case of Walgreens is we've seen these tactics before.
Very interesting. Okay. We'll see what happens from here. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate speaking with you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Take care. All right, everyone, it's 1:45 right now, and we want to take you back to Washington, D.C., where now Senate Democrats are holding a conversation, a hearing about Venezuela. Obviously, lots of action in Venezuela over the weekend that still has a lot of fallout happening. Let's listen in to Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth speaking now.
Folks, what they managed to do. I've flown over urban areas in a combat situation, and what they did was remarkable. Here's the thing, though. I've flown in a war that was fought over oil. I flew out of Fort Knox to Kuwait and into Iraq 21 years ago to serve in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And I went not because I supported the war. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, he was a dictator, and he deserved to be removed from power. However, the problem we have is that it is not the American people's responsibility to go around the world removing dictators from power and then running foreign countries when we have problems here at home. Maduro, brutal dictator. I would never dispute that. But the problem we have is the fact that yet again we have now entered into a war where there is no known off-ramp. If Donald Trump wants to run a country, he should think about running the United States of America. I was home over the break and I spoke to a gentleman whose health insurance policy for him and his wife are going to go up from $3,000 to $12,000. He cannot afford those premiums. His wife is sick. He's giving up his health insurance in order to be able to afford hers because they're on one income because she cannot work. Look, I don't know, maybe Trump dodged the draft so many times that he isn't capable of understanding the lessons that the rest of us have learned from past conflicts that are based on lies. We fought a war in Iraq for oil. We sent troops there, myself included, looking for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. It was a war that was built on bluster and bravado from ignorance and arrogance of those in leadership, and yet here we are again in Venezuela. The reality is Trump's actions this past weekend and his reckless escalation in the days since seems all too familiar to those of us who have served in uniform. He has risked American lives to interfere in another nation's politics without legal basis, and for no good reason that he can articulate other than for the greed of oil. Trump campaigned on bringing costs down. He promised he'd get our nation out of wars, not into them. He campaigned on America first. Well, you know what? That's bullshit, because that's not how he's governing. When I go home to Illinois, folks are talking about health care costs, grocery costs. Tell me, please tell me, how he's making America great again when those costs for everyday Americans are skyrocketing because of his policies. When farmers tell me, you know what, I'm 8th generation, there won't be a 9th generation, we're about to lose our family farm because of his tariffs. Tell me how he's making America great again. So let me just say this. Instead of helping folks afford basic needs, Trump is more focused on regime change and building his Marie Antoinette ballroom, things that do not help everyday families we are supposed to be serving. It is a true testament to our troops' abilities that no Americans died during this operation. But we are already seeing reports that several Americans were injured. And yet at the same time, he's devastating the VA. He had a goal of firing 83,000 employees from the VA, the same department that is supposed to be taking care of veterans who serve in these wars. Trump has never understood that the real cost of war isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the blood and sacrifices of our service members and their families. But our troops know all too well just how costly it can be when a president relies on lies to engage in war over oil without a clearly defined end state. We know better. The American people know better. Listen, we've always known that Donald Trump is a coward and a liar. But this weekend, he proved that when he missed the Vietnam War, he also missed the lessons Americans learned there, the lessons that my buddies and I learned in Iraq decades later. So I'm here today to remind him of the true cost of war. I'm here to say that if he cares about putting America first, then maybe he should focus on running America and not Venezuela. Thank you.
I always try to call on a woman first. Go ahead, in the red.
They're taking some questions now, but that was Iraq War veteran, Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, who was talking about the fact that she doesn't dispute that Nicolás Maduro is a problematic dictator who needed to go, but she says that it's essentially the way that the U.S. has now gone about things, that the Trump administration, she believes, has gone about things that she's really upset with here. She says that the country's been thrust into a war with no off-ramp, that we are interfering in another nation's politics, and she questions the America First outlook on this. How does America come first in looking at this? And really going back to her time as a veteran when talking about the cost of war in the end. Obviously, we're all grateful that there were no service members who were killed in the operation that took place over the weekend, but ultimately she was talking about the cost of war in the long run. All right, it's 1:51 right now. One of the things that many of us around here have been seeing, feeling, experiencing, seeing around us, the flu. It is on the rise here in the state, and we've been getting updates each day about what's going on. Things are not going in the right direction. So we're so glad and grateful that Dr. Shika Jain from UI Health has taken some time to join me to talk a little bit about what's going on. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, lady.
Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Are you surprised that we're now in the very high levels in the state?
So I guess it depends on what you define as surprised. I'm surprised that we're there as early as we are. We usually see these types of peaks later after people come back from the holidays, after they go back to school. They've been mingling and meeting with people and traveling. So we usually see it a little bit later. But unfortunately, this year we're also seeing lower vaccination levels across the country. So I guess I'm not surprised because with lower vaccine levels and these high rates of flu and RSV and COVID circulating right now, I'm not super surprised that we're seeing these high levels.
Yeah, and we have a high level of vaccine hesitancy, really ever since COVID. So do you think that pretty much anything that requires a vaccine, we're now going to see it just hit the American public that much harder?
I'm concerned that's what we're going to see. We're seeing it now with measles making a comeback in many states where the vaccinations are lower than what we normally see. We're seeing it with the flu. We're seeing it, the COVID vaccination percentages this year are way lower. And there's a lot of confusing rhetoric coming out of our national guidance right now. And so I think people are confused, and there's a lot of concern that preventable illnesses are going to make a raging comeback, which we're already starting to see across the country.
We had our first influenza death of a child this season that we were just learning about yesterday. I mean, how hard is it for people think flu, oh, it's been around forever, it's not that big of a deal. We had, during the 2024-2025 season, 12 pediatric deaths from influenza. And again, we've already seen our first for this year. Can you kind of talk about how hard it is on a child's body?
Yeah, it can be very hard on a child's body. I mean, the respiratory symptoms alone can be very difficult. It can be difficult to breathe. The fevers, we're seeing really high fevers this flu season that are not responding as well to Tylenol and Motrin and some of the methods that we usually use to manage those types of symptoms. And kids are more often likely to get GI symptoms, so vomiting, diarrhea, and things like that with the flu as well. So the flu, while it seems like, oh, it's just the flu, everybody gets it, it's different from a common cold, and it can actually result in hospitalizations and death, as you mentioned. So it can hit kids especially very hard, especially those kids under the age of 5, and really, really hit those kids under the age of 2 at the highest risk.
The strain of flu that's going around right now, is the vaccine, is it enough for that this year?
So a lot of people tell me, well, I got the flu shot and I still got the flu. And that's true. You can get the vaccine and still get the flu. The subclad K variant that you're talking about that's going around right now came out after the flu vaccine formulation was decided for this season. So it's possible that your flu vaccine may not totally cover that variant. However, the purpose of the flu vaccine is not necessarily to just prevent you from getting the flu. It's also to prevent you from getting very sick when you get the flu. So there should be some protection even against this variant to prevent you from getting so sick that you might end up in the hospital. And I want to emphasize, it's not just kids who get hospitalized. Adults can also get hospitalized. I've seen people in the hospital who don't have any other medical problems who've been stricken with the flu and have been admitted with severe symptoms. So again, getting your vaccine is the best way to protect you from all of the variants out there to some extent.
Do you recommend getting the flu shot along with other shots at the same time? You know, some people think like, oh, it's going to make me sick.
So I'll tell you, I got my flu shot and my COVID shot at the same time. And yeah, it might make you feel a little bit run down, but it definitely does not make you feel as sick as actually getting the virus. I know some people who like to space it out, maybe wait a week in between. If you have the ability to do that, that's also fine. Everybody's bodies react a little bit differently, but I want to dispel a myth here. You cannot get the flu or get the virus from these flu vaccines or from any of these vaccines. So if you're going to get them the same day or you're going to space them out, that's up to your personal choice, but highly recommend getting all of those vaccines to protect yourself this winter season.
Okay, let's talk about protecting ourselves a little bit more. Again, like you said, wintertime, all of us are indoors a little bit more. And so when things come into the work setting or into school, it spreads, so quickly. What are some of the things that are happening, some of the preventative measures that we should be taking?
Good hand washing, hand sanitizer, both very key. If you're sick and you're able to stay home, please stay home. If you aren't able to stay home, if you need to go out, if you have to go to work, please wear a mask. I know there's a lot of implications that people sometimes have or assumptions they make when you're wearing a mask. Highly recommend, please don't infect other people. So wear a mask if you're coughing or sneezing or having fevers and you have to go out. Good hygiene at home, making sure your kids are blowing their noses and even washing their hands after they do that. But the most important thing is really staying home if you're sick. I was traveling over the holidays and I heard so many people coughing and sneezing, and my kids and I wear masks on the plane. If you are traveling in the train, if you're out in public and you're in crowded areas, also would recommend masking even if you're not sick to help prevent yourself from getting sick.
You know, you made such an excellent point about the fact that, you know, people look at people with masks different. And it always goes through my mind, that person might be sick and trying to help me.
Exactly. My kids say that all the time. My kids will often wear masks to protect themselves. But if we see people with masks in public, I've told my kids it might be that they're sick and they're trying to protect you. It might be that they live with somebody who's immunocompromised or getting treated for cancer and they want to protect them. There's a lot of reasons why people wear masks. So remember, somebody may be wearing a mask because they care about your health more than you realize.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. How long is flu season?
That is a great question, and I wish I had a magic ball to tell you. You know, flu season can go all the way until April or May in some seasons, so we're going to have to wait and see. But my biggest concern right now is, you know, my kids just went back to school. We're back from trips. We just went back to work. So we're probably going to see a spike in the numbers that we're seeing now. I told my kids, please make sure you're washing your hands in between things and make sure if someone's sick to try to stay away if you can. And I'll be keeping my kids home if they get sick over this next couple of months for sure.
Yeah. And should you end up sick, what are the things that you should be doing then?
So if you're sick, you know, as I said, stay home if you can. If you have high fevers, you can take Tylenol or ibuprofen, depending on what other medications you're on. Hydration and rest. Fluids, very important. So hydration does not mean pop or soda or tea. It means things like water or fluids with electrolytes like Gatorade or Pedialyte. Call your doctor for sure. And if you're having symptoms where your fevers aren't going down, if you're getting lightheaded, if you pass out, if you're feeling very sick, please go to the hospital. I know people are really concerned because there's long waits in the emergency rooms, but please go to the hospital to get checked out.
Dr. Shika Jane, we always appreciate having you here, and it's been too long. Thank you for taking time today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. It's 2:00, everyone. Let's take a quick break, and then I'll set you up for what you can expect in this hour. All right, 2:02, everyone. Thanks so much for staying with us here on Chicago Live. If you're just tuning in and here online, we appreciate you starting off this 2 o'clock hour with us. Plenty to get to in this hour. We're going to be talking about several different big topics that we're following right now. We're anticipating to hear from the directors for the Grant Park Music Fest. They just announced their lineup, and you know, when things are cold outside, it's just nice to go ahead and think about, like, it's the road ahead. We're going to get there where we're back to outdoor event. Yeah, this is our new camera, the 2800 camera that gives you the live look out at the gloom today. But the sun will be back one day. One day. We'll get it back here along with some warmth. And so we're going to talk to them about when we get back to Summertime Shy and all of the outdoor activities that are being announced. We'll talk a little bit more about the weather as well during that time. At 2:30, right around 2:30-ish, 2:15 to 2:30, we're going to bring up our political reporter, Paris Schutz. There was a big announcement today. We're still a little ways away from the next mayoral race, but we're already starting to get people kind of putting their hat in the ring, you know, already kind of giving the to sound the alarm to say, hey, make sure you remember my name. And we're going to tell you about who did that today on the radio. But first up, we want to have a conversation. We're continuing on with health conversations here. This one with the Associate Executive Director at the Illinois Public Health Association, as we're now getting in some information, and they're responding here to federal actions taken regarding changes to the U.S. childhood immunization schedule. You know, you just heard in our last conversation talking about immunizations, people who are starting to get hesitant for vaccines. But Melissa Graven is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
So tell me, you know, any doctor that you speak to, whether it's about measles, the flu, COVID, whatever the case may be, there's this ongoing conversation about how do you really advocate for people to get shots in a time frame where maybe, you know, for many different reasons, they're just not feeling like they're as effective as they once were told they were.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's definitely something we're experiencing in public health is the uncertainty of vaccines. And a lot of the conversations we're having around vaccines right now, I think it's really important to reiterate that the science behind vaccines and the proven effectiveness behind vaccines has not changed. Maybe the conversations around it and the maybe different takes and analysis on it is different, but vaccines continue to be one of the best public health interventions that we've had in modern day history, and that talking with your doctor about vaccines is something you should be doing. Having questions about vaccine is completely normal and fine, as any parent would have questions about anything they do with their child.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so consequential. And so just yesterday, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced that they're changing how childhood vaccines are recommended at the federal level. What was your response?
Yeah, I think we just want to reiterate what the recommendations at the federal level don't necessarily impact what happens at the state level. Illinois Public Health Association wants to reiterate and amplify what Illinois Department of Public Health said, that this does not change the recommendations Illinois has for the childhood vaccine schedule, as the science hasn't changed, that there's been no safety signals or any other data points that would require Illinois to change their vaccines. Families are going to have access to those vaccines. They can still get those vaccines when they talk to their healthcare providers about what's best for their child, particularly as the previous conversation, during cold and flu season.
Should parents be worried that the way things are going, at some point in time, the vaccines that were once recommended won't even be available to them? Or even as we start a new year and the conversation about coverage comes up, that it may not be covered anymore?
At this point, the conversation is that vaccines are still going to have the same access we had on prior to this announcement that we have today, that insurances will cover it. The VFC, the Vaccine for Children's program, that helps underinsured or uninsured children have access to vaccines. So I think it's the commitment of the state and everybody in public health to make sure that that access remains.
You lead the Immunize Illinois Coalition. Tell
Yes,
everybody about that.
Yeah, we're super excited. It's a relatively new coalition that we just got off the ground, and basically it's a entity throughout the state of Illinois to bring together vaccine advocates and people who want to push forward vaccines and recognize the public health success that vaccines are. It's for anybody that has questions about vaccines, who wants to get good, credible information. We know there's a lot going out there right now, so we want to make sure we're a unified voice and a clear voice for those who may have questions and want to promote and amplify vaccination.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about flu season. We just had a whole interview about, being at a very high level for flu season. We're mentioning now the immunization schedule for children, the start of their lives. Are there other things out there that you're concerned about, that when you all are meeting or advocating on behalf of this Immunize Illinois Coalition, that you're seeing numbers shift on because of the territory we're in?
Yeah, that's definitely a concern of the coalition, is making sure that parents, families, grandparents have access to good information to answer their questions that they have about vaccines. So talking with your doctor, talking to them about what the best vaccines are for your child, and any questions you may have about those vaccines, that your physician and healthcare provider have been trained to have those conversations with you. Accessing information from good sources like the American Academy of Pediatrics. They are experts in how to keep your kid healthy and what you need to do to ensure a safe and healthy kid to the best of their ability. And of course, Illinois Department of Public Health, they continue to promote vaccinations and have website with a great information.
Mm-hmm. Do you foresee greater issues for you all to do what you're doing in terms of funding or anything of that sort, be it that you are now operating as a separate body outside of what the federal guidance is?
I think, funding and support for vaccine advocacy has always been a need. We've seen, vaccine hesitancy grow over the years, and we want to make sure we're able to get throughout the entire state of Illinois to those individuals, families, parents, grandparents who may have questions about vaccines and want to know where they can get information. So yeah, we definitely have our work cut out for us to advocate and to increase funding so we can ensure access to vaccines and good information about vaccines.
Yeah. Melissa, thank you so much for your time and your attention to this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Same to you. Take care. It's 2:10, everyone. Let me take you to a few different live pictures that we have right now. The first is maybe the hardest, but since we were just speaking about children, let's go to the trial of a former school police officer who's now accused really of not doing enough to protect children at Uvalde school, that shooting. This trial just began, and you can see here they're starting to get some of the folks on the stand here. It's Adrian Gonzalez, who was one of the first officers to respond in 2022, who is on trial. And so we'll be hearing more. I don't expect that this will be a quick trial. It will for sure be an emotional trial. Just moments ago, we were seeing some of the evidence that they were presenting, and just seeing some of those pictures was obviously a little difficult as we think back to that time in 2022 when 29 there are now 29 counts of child abandonment or endangerment that came from that particular incident that took place at Robb Elementary School. 19 students who were killed on that day, and so many questions that have persisted since that time as to what could have been done differently to save more lives on that day. So we'll continue to watch what's happening there. Let me also take you to another live picture that we have at the Kennedy Center. This is just outside of it right now. Not a whole lot of activity that's taking place at the moment, but there is an anticipated protest that if it begins during our time here, we'll try to take you to live. This is now the Trump Kennedy Center, if we're being exact as to what's on the building there. So there's a protest that we are anticipating happening here soon at that center. And then there's another live picture that we have been monitoring as we speak of protest. Obviously, over the last several days, there's been so much attention to what has taken place over the weekend, Saturday to be specific, Friday night into Saturday morning in Venezuela, with the capture of the country's president and the the trial that's now, the outlook of a trial. Yesterday we had several different reporters. We took one reporter from New York City, where Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia were arraigned, and we also had a live picture from Florida, where there was a heavily populated Venezuelan community in Florida, and there are mixed emotions for so many people about what's happened over the last several days. I mean, if you think about the fact that we were hearing moments ago from Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, and decorated, war veteran, who was speaking not so much about the fact that Nicolas Maduro was a problematic lawmaker, but just the means at which the U.S. got involved there in Venezuela. Well, now you're seeing a protest. This is a pro-Maduro protest. This is in Caracas, where you are seeing the streets filled with people. So again, mixed emotions as to what has taken place and where things go from here in terms of what happens in that country, in Venezuela and beyond, really. For many reasons, there are ongoing conversations. The vice president who was under Maduro has now been sworn in. We watched that live here on the air yesterday. The vice president under Maduro has been sworn in, but the opposition party is still asking questions as to, well, wait, if we were actually elected and he stayed in power, shouldn't we be the ones now running the country? So there are people who have that feeling as to what's going on. There are people, again, who have the feeling that nothing should have changed in their country. And then there are the concerns about, okay, who is running the country moving forward? And what does that say for other nations around the world? So we will continue to follow this developing story as we now have many different things to sift through in the days, weeks, and really years to come as a result of what's taken place over the weekend there in Venezuela. It's 2:15 though right now, and our political reporter Paris Schutz just walked into the room. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes. We'll set up and we'll bring him in to talk about big news that happened here in the city today. 2:17, everyone, and as you can see, the aforementioned Paris Schutz is here. Thank you so much for coming up. We appreciate it.
Always good to spend some time with you, Anita, and you all.
And today we are still a ways away from the next mayoral election here in the city of Chicago. But today, someone decided to make a little news.
Yeah, Congressman Mike Quigley, who has been saying, well, I'm thinking about it, has been leaning toward it, been making the moves. Today on WGN Radio said, yes, I am, and there'll be an announcement after the March primary, because he's still running for his seat in Congress, and he can run for both. The election for mayor is February of 27, so that's not that far away. It's about a year. I mean, it's about a year away. Is that right? Yeah.
A little over a year.
Yeah. Wow, time is moving. So we got all the midterms to get through first, and then that ramps up right away. And but that's a big name and
Huge
a domino
name.
to fall.
Yeah, and there's so many questions I think that come from that, because one, when you talk about running kind of essentially for two positions, it's the same outlook that people have on the governor that's been criticized, honestly. Like, well, can you really be committed to one if you're really looking at the other one?
Well, not just that. I mean, you have Alexi Janulius, who has been saber rattling about running for mayor, but also will have to run for re-election as Secretary of State. The other end of that was Susana Mendoza, who stepped down as comptroller, who, relatively popular. She probably would have won. So she decided very clearly to step down and focus all her attention on running for mayor. If indeed that's what
she hasn't fully said it.
She hasn't fully said it. We fully expect her to, but that's, yes, you come with that. And then Pritzker running for governor, but often talked about a 2028 presidential candidate.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the names. I mean, we just mentioned a few that are rumored to, but haven't necessarily fully said, made the commitment that they're actually going to run for mayor. But there are several who have said, yeah, I'm in, even if they haven't made their formal announcement.
Maria Pappas, the Cook County Treasurer, said I'm in. She said it right here, I think.
She did, yeah. She did.
Joel Holberg, who's a first-time newcomer, businessman, entrepreneur. He is self-funding a campaign. He put $500,000 into his own campaign. And then you've got now Mike Quigley and Mayor Brandon Johnson, who
hasn't said that he's even running for re-election.
I asked him on this show, on Chicago Report last week. I asked him twice, and he said, my kids are in high school. I'm focused on that. It really sounded like someone that
it's a big question.
Might not have his mind made up on that.
Yeah. And what do you think would make his mind up?
Well, probably better polling. If he had a poll that comes out that shows him gaining ground, then probably, I think he's really leaned into the populist message when City Council passed this budget. He's leaned into, anti-Trump messaging, and with the hope that boosts his kind of low political popularity right now. And if that does, that might change the calculus. Like, okay, I have a realistic shot here. But, and no incumbent wants to think they can't win. But if you look, if they take a look at the numbers and say, okay, we don't have much of a pathway, then he might not do it. But, even though he has low popularity, I wouldn't rule out a pathway.
Sure.
I mean, he still, in a city that's 1/3 African American, is the only African American candidate. So
thus far,
and as an incumbent. So, there is an avenue, there is a pathway, and so I would lean toward he's going to do it. But the answer he gave me, it seemed that of a man who was not sure he wanted to keep doing this.
And so that begs the question: do you think he's looking to see who the competition will be?
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, is he going to have really heavy competition that's going to sweep up all the endorsements and all the cash and get on TV all day long? It's certainly possible. And he will have the funding of the Chicago Teachers Union, who was, in the past spent millions of dollars. And they're not shy about spending millions of dollars in organizing. So he will have some ammo at his back. But just that answer was really different. You get a lot of those political answers. Well, I'm focused in on the job. But when he said, well, I have kids that are in high school, that's the kind of thing you say when you
Might
want to
be.
come spend more time with
Yeah.
them in their formative years.
Yeah.
So I just was very struck by that answer. And he looked like a man that was maybe not exhausted, but
Well, look, any mayor is going to look
course.
exhausted.
It's the toughest job in the world.
It's not an easy job for anybody.
It's not an easy job for anybody.
I wouldn't want it.
I mean, not just the problems, but then having to navigate the cutthroat politics of the
and
city.
specifically for Chicago, you're navigating politics at many levels.
So many levels. If you make someone happy, you're guaranteed to tick off someone else. It's just always going to be the case.
Yeah.
So you can't ever make anyone happy as a Chicago mayor.
I mean, I've thought this often since Mayor Johnson was elected. Do you think we have seen the end of multi-term mayors in Chicago?
Well, that's a great question. That's a really good question, because in Chicago, I think with Mayor Daley, we came to be used to, just mayor for life. 22 years he had, 21 years his father had. Rahm did 2 terms, and I thought he could have won a 3rd term. I mean, he was still very formidable, even though his popularity had plummeted.
Yeah.
But he gave it up after 2 terms, and Lori Lightfoot just 1 term, Johnson 1 term. With Emmanuel's calculus, I think that he looked at the politics and he said it's very hard to have a successful 3rd term. Things started to go off the rails politically in his 2nd term, so he's like, this might be the best I'm going to get here. And we might be in that era, given how now emboldened the council is. They're not just sheep that are just going along with the mayor. So, yeah, it could be. But I think that, in Chicago, it's still like machine-style politics. And if someone builds a machine politically, it's hard to defeat one of those things.
Yeah. So Quigley saying that he's in, waiting for his formal announcement. Papa says she's in, waiting for a formal announcement. Joe Holberg
yes.
Says that he's in as well. And we're still waiting on several others who've kind of hinted at probably doing it, but not in for sure
And here's
yet.
the interesting thing about him is he is self-financed to the tune of $500,000. So there's an Illinois law that puts caps on how much you can donate to a campaign.
Right.
It's a pretty small nominal amount. But once if you self-fund and you break that cap, and now the floodgates open and the law says you can accept unlimited donations. So it's interesting. Every election cycle there's that. But Willie Wilson used to do this all the time. He's independently wealthy, so he would self-fund, and he would break that cap for all the candidates. So once one person self-funds, that means the campaign limits are off for everybody. Everyone's free to raise as much money as they want. And the idea behind it's a weird law, and the idea behind that law was so that a independently wealthy person wouldn't just have an automatic advantage. So if someone was going to donate $1 million to their own campaign, then the law, the idea of the law was like, well, then it's not fair that someone can't raise. They're limited, and so that's but that law sometimes, this being Chicago, we always speculate. Well, is this person being put up?
Right.
To just
where's
do that?
the money coming from?
Yeah. But are they doing that just for that reason, so that the other candidates can now accept unlimited donations? That was always the thought with Willie Wilson. Is like, does someone want him in there so he can do that? We haven't seen Willie Wilson.
I was going to say, and maybe he'll decide he's going to hop back in again.
It's time to call Willie. We haven't heard from him in a while.
Paris, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I know you got to run for a meeting.
Yep.
But we appreciate you stopping by here. Everybody, let's take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be right back. Okay, 2:28, everyone. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's go now back to the protest that is just starting to get underway. They're outside of the Trump Kennedy Center. As we're starting to see them, and this is a moving camera, keep in mind we don't have control of these cameras, but you could see kind of on the left-hand side of your screen, there were several lights that were flashing over there. Looks like the reporter is going to the other side of the screen. A photographer here is going to the other side of the street. There were lots of, and you can see right there on the right-hand side now, a heavy police presence in this area as they are anticipating a large crowd there at the Trump Kennedy Center in Washington here. I'm going to try to just wait for this camera to kind of get set if they can do that pretty quickly. I don't want to make anyone sick with all of the movement, though, that's going on there, but I just want to get a little closer, and you can see the crowd that is growing outside of the center. Not only the first responders who are there, but also some of the protesters that are starting to gather. Let's see if they'll turn that camera up so that we can see, and you can see right there. All right, now we're getting in place where you can see, and they're zooming in, and you can see it looks like for the most part, at this point in time, the protest is peaceful, that people are just gathering there on the sidewalk. They've got plenty of signs, some flags. Looks like they're chanting. They're getting some direction as to where to go, but they're at least following the direction at this point in time as they start this protest. It was planned, so be it that it was planned, I'm thinking they may have gotten a permit for this to take place here, and therefore the police are kind of guiding this and just giving them some direction as to where they can and cannot go. Obviously, it's outside of the Trump Kennedy Center, and that in and of itself has caused a stir. But as you can see from the flags, this is the center itself is, if you will, not the center fully of the protest. There are some flags from Venezuela. You can see kind of in the back of the picture there, and some of the other countries that have been mentioned in the last several days. The president has given some threats, essentially, that what happened in Venezuela may not be the only operation of its kind. There were several other nations that were kind of given a threat, if you will. And you can see this sign is about ICE, that they want ICE out of D.C., and essentially troops, they say, out of everywhere for that particular sign. So they're protesting many different things, but chose this location of this Trump Kennedy Center, no blood for oil. That particular sign says, again, this is going back to what took place in Venezuela, as there are several signs there now speaking specifically about the oil. And the president has talked at length about American countries taking over the oil production there in Venezuela, and that has become a hot point for many people who have come out today, who are protesting again several different things in this one particular location that are kind of colliding, several different interests that are all colliding on this particular space there in Washington, D.C. As we have been watching now, just moments ago, at the top of this hour at 2 p.m., when we looked at this picture, there was no one there. So this is just the beginning of this crowd starting to grow, but there is plenty of police protection in that area, as this was a planned protest. So they were aware of what was going to happen, and they are giving some direction to the protesters who are starting to gather in this area. We're now going to just take a quick break and see what happens here again. Venezuela is a part of the issue for many people who have gathered here, but there are people who have gathered to talk about ICE as well in several different areas. Obviously, D.C. being a place where we saw a terrible tragedy as a result of troops in that area. That was National Guard troops that were a part of immigration efforts there in Washington, D.C. So there are a lot of different interests at this particular protest that's just starting to build. But all things are peaceful at the moment. We'll continue to watch and hope that things stay that way. It's about 2:34 now. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to bring things back here home and talk a little bit about the weather and move on from there. And again, if things kind of build or don't go in the right direction here at this protest in Washington, D.C., we'll go back to this live picture as the crowds are growing there. All right, we'll take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back.
This occupation of D.C., this genocide in Palestine, and everything else they want to do. Impossible, ain't that right? We are here to make this shit ungovernable, ain't that right? That's right. They're going to have to expend as much.
(2:37), Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls here. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
First time I'm seeing you. And you know what? I don't know if you brought the clouds, but yesterday it was a really sunny day. What happened?
Something to talk about in the weather department.
Okay,
you know?
there we
Don't
go.
Give me sunshine.
All right.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest looking day out there, but if you haven't been out and about, you know, you may have noticed that it feels okay. And, you know, this is my first day back to work in a couple days here, and this is the first time for me seeing the sky cam. And you know what I don't see here, Anita, is ice.
True.
On the lake right now.
It's kind of going away.
Yes, so we've had a lot of melting taking place. You know, all of that snow that we started off December with, that all melted away. Things got very warm for the second half of December, but now we're kind of getting back into, you know, more of an up and down winter-like pattern. We're going to have some warm days this week. It's not going to be bitter cold, but we do see our next storm system that we're going to have to watch. And for everyone watching this weekend, there's a lot of us. Packers-Bears game happening
we're
on
ready.
Saturday. So here's the deal with Saturday, though. So there's going to be a storm system coming through the area that I think initially is going to start off as rain. High temperatures are likely going to be in the upper 30s, but then we start to get some cooler air wrapping in. So I really think that we're going to see some of that rain turning into snow and just kind of a yucky wintry mix. So
a lot of people sitting out there like, when are we getting that new stadium?
Yes, it's not going to be the most pleasant conditions. There's likely going to be some wind that comes along with it too. But you know what? Bears are used to it, right? So maybe it'll be a little bit of an advantage but I guess the Packers, they're really used to it.
They are used to it as well, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's a good thing that we have some rain mixing with the snow because they're used to the snow.
Yeah, yeah. Just, they're going to be sliding around, I don't know. I don't play football, but
something to watch, though. It'll be this as we get a little bit closer to this upcoming weekend. But in the meantime, really not so bad. Out there right now, we're in the 40s.
Nice.
Typically for this time of the year, your average high is in the low 30s. So temp-wise, we're doing pretty good. And we are dealing with some fog out there right now. That's also going to linger into tonight, tomorrow morning as well. Tomorrow, we could actually be dealing with some areas of patchy dense fog. Remember, dense fog is about a quarter mile or less. That's when we really start to see and feel those impacts on the roadways. So we could be dealing with that tomorrow morning for the first half of the day. And then after that, we're quiet for at least a little while. Tomorrow during the day, things are fine. We have another system kind of swinging through on Thursday. That one, we're going to be warm enough for rain, though. So on Thursday, it's just rain. Friday, we'll dry things out after the morning hours. So we have a morning chance of rain on Friday. But temps, we're actually in the 50s come Thursday, 40s again by Friday. So overall, an above average week. And then we're going to start to get back on track with what's considered to be closer to normal by the end of this upcoming weekend. So low 30s expected on Sunday. But overall speaking, if you look at the month of January, from the Climate Prediction Center, it's looking like we have a pretty decent shot of seeing mainly above average conditions this month. So, maybe Mother Nature got it out of her system the first half of December.
She came in strong.
She did,
She
yes.
came in strong.
So far this season, we've picked up over 18 inches of snow at O'Hare.
Which is more than all of last year?
More than all of last year. So last year, the 24-25 season, there we go. We're in the 25-26 snow season now. Last season, we had 17.3 inches in total.
Wow.
That's way below average, though.
Oh.
So our average is right around 30-some inches of snow, which sounds like a lot, but you usually don't get it all.
Well, I would just think it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Since we've gotten that.
It's been years. So we are due, but this week it's mainly rain. So we're warmer than average this week, and most of this month, if you were going to average it out at the end of the month, wouldn't be surprised if models continue to prove correct. I really think that we're going to have a warm month this time around.
And then we still can't count things out for February because it
Or
could
March
be anywhere.
around here.
That's true. That's true.
We can still add.
I moved to Chicago in April. The year that I moved here, it was April. And I remember it snowed that day. It was the beginning of April. It was like April, maybe 2nd,
Yeah.
And it snowed and I was like, it's April.
Yeah.
What's going on?
That's when we want to see the tulips coming up and, just really kind of getting ready for the spring. But, at this latitude, you can kind of get it all at, all the way through April, even into very early May. There has been traces of snow before. So you can't really fully turn that page to spring until we're into May.
But it makes us like the whole time we're like, are we done?
Yeah.
Are we not?
Well, girl, we're not done
Are
yet.
we not?
We are at the beginning of January, and I think we're just lucky enough that this week it should be pretty smooth sailing
We'll
until
take it.
Saturday, and we'll see what next week brings, right?
Well, let's get through the Bears game first, and then we'll see what next week brings.
That'll be the big focal point this week. It's just trying to nail down, exactly the timing on when we're going to see that changeover on Saturday. For now, we're still several days out, so there's still quite a few questions about the exact timing of that and if it's going to be lining up with the game. But regardless, I think we're going to have precipitation in the area, likely starting as rain. And then I do think we're going to have some wind along with it too.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We have the word from the chief. Thank you so much for coming up
You're
for us.
welcome.
We appreciate it. All right, everybody. We'll be right back. 2:45, and we were just speaking with our chief meteorologist about the weather outside and how it's been over the last, several days, the outlook on at least the next several weeks. But if you heard us toward the end of that conversation, there's this thought in your mind, like, when do we really turn the tide? When do we get to better days where we're back outside again? I mean, it's wishful thinking for all of us right now in the middle of winter, but one thing that sweetens the pot is thinking about all of the outdoor activities that come with the better weather whenever it gets here. And the Grant Park Music Festival has just announced their 2026 season lineup. Starts June 10th. And so I'm so honored to have the president and CEO of the Grant Park Music Festival joining me now. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, what goes into creating this lineup?
I think it's so funny that we're right on the tail end of the weather report. We have this funny winter warm-up going on right now. And yes, our thoughts actually do turn to summer. And like you said, summer in the great city of Chicago is the place to be. And, I think about the fact that, the Cubs are back, the White Sox are back, there's picnics going on, everyone's out enjoying the lakefront. And then we have the Grant Park Music Festival. And as you said, we've just announced our 2026 season. We've been around for nearly a century. It's our 92nd season, and we're very excited about what we have in store for all of our friends here in Chicago. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Grant Park Music Festival, we are a free summer music festival that celebrates classical music, actually. So at the heart of what we do features the Grant Park Orchestra and the Grant Park Chorus, and we produce about 200 free concerts and events, primarily at the Pritzker Pavilion in Millennium Park, but in neighborhoods all over the city of Chicago. It is it's definitely a Chicago tradition.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it's a highly anticipated one each year, but this year obviously is colliding with America's 250th. So how do you all make that work and shine?
Yeah, it's such a great way to sort of center how we think about the kind of concerts that we want to present. It's America's 250th birthday. And of course, for those of you who have been to a Grant Park Music Festival concert in the past, probably one of the highlights of the celebration of America 250 is our annual Independence Day concert. It's really the only free city-sponsored concert in the city of Chicago, and it is a huge celebration of everything that makes the United States such a unique and special country. But along with that, we have a whole series of other concerts where we're really celebrating what it means to have sort of this classic American sound, how that's evolved over the last 250 years. We're going to be celebrating concerts featuring more than 50 American composers this summer. Also, classical composer favorites like Mozart, Beethoven will be performing the Symphony Number 9, the Ode to Joy of Beethoven. Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein, some of those, more household names, along with some lesser known, but also young and emerging American voices when it comes to classical music.
How do you coordinate all of that? I mean, that sounds tremendous.
Well, it is definitely, like they say, it takes a village to produce a summer music festival. Our summer music festival, as I mentioned, is 10 weeks each summer, and we're all over the city, and everything we do is free. It's supported by the Chicago Park District, and it's supported by the city of Chicago. And we have a whole team here that works year-round to prepare for and put together and plan for all the many details of producing this festival. More than 300,000 people attend our concerts. When we do a concert here in Millennium Park, we have anywhere between 7,000 and 12,000 people attending our performances. So that's a lot of folks that we need to ensure are having a great experience when they come to one of our concerts, and that they feel welcome, and that they feel so good about what they do, about what we do, that they come back over and over and over again.
Yeah. How do you stay excited, as time goes on?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I actually have had a lifelong love of classical music. For a period of my life, I actually was a performer, and then discovered that, there's work that needs to be done on the production side in order to make this sort of magic happen. And once I discovered that, I have just never lost my enthusiasm for it. It is definitely a labor of love.
Yes, a labor of love for sure. What did you play?
I was a pianist, but I also played violin. So I learned a lot about symphonic music just by doing. And so I grew up very much steeped in performance and playing music.
And as long as you've been a part of this, do you still have a wish list?
Oh my gosh. One of the great things about the Grant Park Music Festival is that because we're free and open to the public, that we've been able to experiment a lot with music that might not be part of what would be considered sort of the standard classical music canon. Mm-hmm. So, for example, 2 years ago, we did this fantastic concert with the hip hop artist Common.
I was there.
And yeah. Oh, were you there? So fantastic concert that also, included a number of his friends, and then the surprise guest, of course, was
his
Jennifer
friend.
But to be able to do concerts that blend popular styles with classical styles, that is actually something that I think is very exciting about the field that we work in, and something that I would love to have had the opportunity to do more of, and look forward to actually doing more of as we move into the future of the festival.
I thought that night was incredible, just as I give you a review from one person who was in the audience. It was incredible, soul-stirring. And when they did Glory at the end, I mean, just tears and goosebumps.
It was quite a special night. And Common is obviously a very, very special artist who was thrilled to be back in Chicago in Millennium Park, presenting his art we had about 17,000 people here that night. So for this huge audience to come and just revel in what he was able to create, it was pretty spectacular. I'm so glad you were there.
I was, until the fireworks at the very end. I enjoyed it, fully enjoyed it, yeah. And it really speaks to, and I think you all do this on a great scale every year, but to the diversity that you all bring to what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of the things that we work very hard to do. We recognize that we are presenting music to the city, and we live in a very diverse city. And what we are trying to do is create an audience that really reflects the diversity of the city. So being able to do performances with Common. This year, we're going to be doing a concert with a pop artist, composer and singer, Ben Folds, who is previously the front man for Ben Folds 5.
Cool.
That's another opportunity for us to kind of reach new audiences, but still stay true to what we're all about as a classical music festival.
Yeah, I think it stretches the musicians too. I mean, I speak with some of my colleagues and friends who, have children who are kind of learning instruments, and like to tell them, hey, let's sit down and practice this Mozart might be a lot for like a 6-year-old. But if they can actually, train on a sound that they're familiar with, that they like in general, they're excited to be a part of it.
I couldn't agree more. I remember when I was young and started taking piano lessons, the music that I wanted to play was the stuff I was hearing on the radio and things that my piano teacher kind of recognized that, well, you can learn in a lot of different ways and with a lot of different repertoire. Okay, you can play, name that, piece, insert that popular piece at the time. But it really instilled in me an appreciation not just for classical music, but for all genres of music. And, when you really think about it, music really doesn't have any borders.
Yeah.
People have, if you have a set of ears and you're open to just listening, you will discover that you love jazz, that you love hip hop music, that you love R&B, that you love country, and that you love classical.
You were so right. I couldn't agree with you more. It's been so great chatting with you. You made me think of great memories and some new events that will be happening again, everybody. 10 weeks, June 10th through August 15th, that we'll have to make new memories.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing all of your viewers there.
We will be there. I will be there along with them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. I just love summertime around here. And yes, I do try to get to like every music opportunity I can. And he's right. When you just love music, you love music. And so sometimes it might be a classical performance. Sometimes it might be hip hop. Sometimes I love going out to the Windy City, fest that's out at the United Center every year. That's country. I love all of the different genres of music. And we have it all here in Chicago. So music lovers, this is our place. All right, it's 2:57. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll line things up for our final hour together here on Chicago Live. Three o'clock, everyone. Thanks so much for being here on Chicago Live. If you're just joining us, we appreciate you. taking the time to join us for our last hour together. And we have several big conversations still to come in this final hour now. We're going to talk about padel booming in Glenview. No, not tennis. No, not many of the other things that you think. Padel is, it's not new, but it's now catching on for a lot of people. And so there's a new facility in Glenview. We're going to talk to the folks behind it to see, does it kind of catch on the way some other things have in our area. At 3:15, we're going to talk with some folks in Geneva about their work to restore and preserve a historic building in that area. I think it dates back to 1845. And so we won't just talk about the history behind it, but also what their plans are for the future if they're able to succeed in their efforts to save it, because right now that is the work that's underway, is just to try to save that building. But as we turn the page on a new year, and many of us are like trying to get our wits about us after a little time off from work, I'm sorry to tell you, we've got to talk about taxes. April is still a ways away, but we've already had some major changes that go into effect this year that we want to make sure that you're aware of and prepared for. And so I want to bring in Aristotle Macris of Goldstone Financial Group that is based in Oak Brook. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Let's just start with what changes are going into effect this year?
Oh, so there's a number of changes. So what I'll talk about today is maybe the more common changes, the ones that most of America can take advantage of. So I guess we could start off with our seniors. So there's been a lot of talk around Social Security, and is Social Security going to be taxed going forward? Well, under the new big beautiful bill that was created, seniors age 65 and older are afforded $6,000 of additional deduction on their tax returns per person. So a married couple could have up to $12,000 of additional tax deduction, and that'll help take the bite out of some of the Social Security benefits that may be taxable to them. One of the other big items in here is really the state and local tax deduction. So up until recently, the standard deduction was so large that few people were able to itemize anymore, especially since the state and local tax deduction was limited to $10,000. Well, starting with the new bill that's out, that $10,000 went up to a $40,000 deduction. So especially for taxpayers in states like New York and California that have very high state taxes, they're able to actually take advantage of that additional state tax as a deduction and start itemizing their tax returns. So that's another very large benefit for some taxpayers. Some of the other items in here are really centered around overtime and tip income. So there were some deductions that were centered around those. So for overtime pay, the first $12,500 per person of overtime pay is not going to be taxable. It will be subject to Social Security and Medicare tax, but it won't be subject to federal taxation. And for tips, very similarly, all reported tips are excludable from income to the effect of $25,000 per person. Those are some of the bigger items that are out there right now. There's some smaller changes and plenty of changes centered around businesses. But I don't know if we have the time to go through all of that today.
Well, just in the fact that the income tax bracket itself has changed for the 2025 filing, let's address that.
Yeah, so the tax brackets, the actual rates haven't changed. The rates have stayed the same as with the prior tax code. However, the brackets increase as a function of inflation. So where you may have a bracket that, for instance, may go up to, $100,000 before you jump into the next tax bracket, those are all increased for inflation. And we can most certainly, there's multiple places, including the IRS.gov, that you can go and view those those tax brackets. So that's an ongoing thing. You're going to see tax brackets increase by inflation going forward. The bigger issue is what's going to happen with the rates. Thank goodness right now the rates are stable and they're at the lowest rates that we've experienced in modern history. So we're still sitting in a good place from a rate perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing conversations about like the change in e-filing.
So e-filing, the IRS has opened up a portal for e-filing directly on the IRS website. So it's good and bad in that you have the services that are out there that charge a fee for e-filing aren't too happy about it. But for the lower income families that don't have very complicated tax returns, it actually saves them a few dollars by being able to e-file directly on the IRS website.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when you look at the changes, what do you think will be most complicated for people? I mean, when you think about filing yourself versus having someone prepare your taxes for you, where do you think people might get confused or, for lack of a better way of putting it, just, hemmed up by the changes?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the modern tax software can handle all these problems for the do-it-yourselfers. The issue centered around the do-it-yourselfer tax software is answering the questions right as they're prompted to you. So if you don't answer the questions right in the software packages, you're going to get the wrong result. And I've seen that before in practice. I actually owned my own tax practice for years through the early 2000s and mid 2000s. And I've seen a lot of tax returns come back wrong just because the wrong box was checked when they were preparing their tax returns. So it's always advisable to have a tax professional prepare your tax returns. Even though it may cost a few dollars, it can save you a lot of headaches going forward.
I believe in that, although no shade to anyone who has the faith in themselves to be able to go forth and conquer. What are the things that you would advise people to do now?
So that's kind of a loaded question because everyone's tax situation is so different.
Sure.
But one of the common items one of the buzz items that we've been having around town is that because rates are where they're at on the lower end, we have a distinct opportunity to do Roth conversions. In other words, converting traditional IRA accounts into Roth accounts. And you'll pay tax in doing that, but the expectation is that you're going to be paying tax at a lower rate now to do the conversion. And once the conversion is done, all the growth and any distributions from those Roth IRA accounts is going to be tax-free going into retirement. So that's a very big point, especially in the low tax environment that we have right now.
That is huge. Our jaws dropped over here when you said that. Does it apply to 401ks as well?
Yeah, to take advantage of that, you would actually have to transfer the 401k into an IRA. So these are specific laws centered around IRA accounts. So if you're still with a company, your 401k plan, you really can't do much with it as far as converting. Some companies offer in-service distributions, usually to employees that are over age 50, that you may be allowed to take a portion of your 401k and transfer it into an IRA account. And from there, you can do these conversions. But otherwise, anyone that has a current IRA or recently separated service, they can transfer the money out of their 401ks into an IRA. And we also advise more times than not, when you change jobs, instead of leaving the money in that existing 401k or rolling it over into the new employer's 401k, roll it out into an IRA. You open up that door of opportunity to take advantage of a lot in the tax code by doing that.
Oh, I should have been talking to you earlier. And as we get ready for April, I mean, yes, it's a ways away, but it comes around fast. I'm definitely one of those people that's like, wait, it's already, the end of March. Let me do all of this at the last minute every year. But how do you suggest people, take this time moving toward April?
Oh, yeah. So the unfortunate thing is now that we're in the new year, there's very little you can do to affect your prior year's taxes, with the exception of maybe contributing to an IRA account and taking a tax deduction there. But the bigger item is making sure that you're collecting your mail and you're not missing any tax forms. It's always advisable, grab a big manila folder, and anytime you see something that says tax documents, go ahead and slide it in there and have it all prepared if you're doing your taxes yourself, or at least you'll have a complete document set for your tax preparer. Most of these documents are going to be coming out here now anywhere from the middle of January through the middle of February. Most of the documents have a deadline to be mailed out, if they're mailed out, by January 31st. The only hiccup that you may find, or the item that you may be waiting for, is a lot of 1099s from your investment accounts, from your brokerage accounts. More times than not, these are offered extensions, and you may not see them until you get closer to the end of February. And in some cases, you'll find amendments, which puts another hiccup into the mix.
The Trump administration has touted savings for many people that come from the Big Beautiful Bill. Do you see in the changes that are outlined here, do you see that resulting in some savings for people, some more money coming back to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the savings are very specific on everyone's tax scenario. I would say the bigger savings that we're seeing are really in the lower income threshold. And when I say lower income, under $250,000, because a lot of these benefits that are rolling out have what's called phase outs. So once you hit a certain income level, the benefits of some of these tax changes, they diminish, they go away. So really, it's most of these phase outs happen anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 of income that affect it. So you do have probably, I would say, for the most part, anyone under $300,000 is definitely benefiting from this, and it can be benefits anywhere from $500 to $2,500 in tax savings.
Very interesting. Anything else that you think should be top of mind, or that may be easily missed?
Oh, easily missed. In my history, having prepared taxes for over 30 years, inevitably there's always a form that's missed somewhere along the line. But I would say cost basis is a big deal for investments. I mean, prior to 2011, broker-dealers weren't required to report cost basis to the IRS. They weren't required to record cost basis on your statements. So if you have any investments out there that you purchased prior to 2011, or if you've inherited or been gifted any investments, it's important to understand and calculate that the cost basis for those, because when you sell those investments, you have to calculate the gain, and you don't want to be overpaying the IRS.
Oh, I do want to also ask, are there any new things that you could get a credit for?
For credits. So some of the credits are actually being phased out. So a lot of the electric and improvement credits are being phased out of the tax bills. So that's kind of the unfortunate thing. There is the child tax credit that's still available, and the dependent tax credit. Those are continuously being increased for inflation. I believe the tax credit for children is at $2,000 per child. And the only other thing that is new that's coming in here in 2026 isn't necessarily tax related, but it has to do with the Trump accounts for newborns that he's contributing into tax deferred accounts that a lot of people take advantage of.
Okay, lots to keep in mind. And obviously, we want to have more than just April 15th on our minds, everybody. Please take into account everything that Aristotle just said. We're going to put this on our page so that you'll be able to reference it as we get closer to that date. Thank you so much for your time. Great conversation with you.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, you take care. Might have to call him back. 3:14, everybody. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back. .317 right now, and when we look around our area, there are always buildings that you kind of wonder, like, what's the backstory on that building, especially when it seems like they've been there for a very long time. Well, in Geneva, there is an effort to preserve and restore a landmarked 1845 Alexander Brothers foundry and blacksmith shop. It was once a part of the Mill Race Inn, and time is really of the essence here because on January 12th, the Geneva City Council is scheduled to hear the developer's third petition for a permit to demolish the structure. So I want to bring in now a Geneva resident and supporter of this effort to try to save it, Alan Lehigh. Thank you so much for your time.
Greetings from out here in Geneva.
Greetings to you, and tell me a little bit about what this building, what this mill has meant to Geneva over the years.
Sure. Well, Geneva's a pretty quiet town that a lot of people like to come and visit on for day trips or the weekends. And they may not be aware that over the past 7 or 8 years, there's been sort of a kerfuffle here with a developer that wants to demolish one of our landmarks here within the town. And the landmark, as you indicated, is a blacksmith shop that was established here by two brothers, the Alexander brothers, two guys in their 20s. In age back in the mid-1840s.
So over the course of time, has there, has the building kind of fallen apart? What does it look like over time? Has it changed quite a bit?
Very much so. In fact, that's such a great question. Over the past nearly 2 centuries, it has transformed from a blacksmith shop and a foundry initially, and then one of the two brothers went to California for the gold rush in 1849, and they sold the business. And since then, it became a carriage repair and shop and a carriage and buggy shop. It's been a laundry. It's been a paint shop. It's been a variety of different businesses over the years, including in the 1920s. It was an automobile sales and repair shop for the old Model T Fords and other cars of that time. But then the most interesting thing happened in 1933, and that it was bought by a woman named Anne Forsyth, and she converted it into a tea room or cafe. And she called it the Mill Race Inn because it was right on the mill race there, the Fox River. And the business was very successful. And over the decades, they kept adding new additions to the building. And eventually, it enveloped the entire original shop. So you couldn't even see it from the outside anymore. It was called the Stone Room within the dining room. And it was like that for about 8 decades, going on 8 decades. So it almost became legendary. People talked about there being a blacksmith shop inside the Mill Race Inn, but no one had seen it for years and years and years. So it became quite interesting when the restaurant finally sold out and left in 2011. The building sat vacant for about a half dozen years. And then the new owner applied to the city council to demolish it. And they said, okay, you can demolish all the additions, but not the blacksmith shop itself. So I remember when it happened in 2017, it was really interesting to see all the, like peeling a banana, or an onion, all these parts came off. And there sat the original blacksmith shop.
Wow.
Not in best shape, and it's deteriorated a lot in the last 7 years, but it's still there.
Wow. So all of this anticipation, this blacksmith shop everyone's heard about, not everyone has seen. You know, some people think probably is just a rumor at this point in time, but then everyone finally sees it. But the goal, at least of this developer, is to take it out altogether.
Well, that's right. In fact, there was the first petition was in 2017, and it was denied by the city council. They tried again in 2023 and was denied again. And now this is the third attempt. And last month, the Historic Preservation Commission in Geneva unanimously overturned their petition, unanimously said, no, we don't want it torn down. And so once again, they're appealing to the city council. And as you indicated earlier, this next Monday night is when it's on the agenda. So our group, we have a group of local people who got together, and we're very concerned because it's gone on for so long and it just keeps deteriorating. And there's a fair number of people, admittedly, that say, let's just be done with it because it's so ugly. And what we wanted to do was show people what it was originally and why it has value and should be restored and can be restored. So we have a meeting coming up this Thursday evening, and later, if I can, I'll tell you when and where that is, for residents to come and see what we have put together, and that is so that they could understand what was there and the value of it. Over the past few months, we've been building a model of what it looked like when it was new in 1845. And so we have a committee that involves people who are local historians, people who know about early settlement blacksmithing. We have some architects and people who know how to build architectural models. So we'll be previewing that model next Thursday night, so anybody can come by in the evening and see it and ask questions about it and talk to members of our committee that developed it. And then we'll also be talking about not only historic preservation, but also adaptive reuse and what this could be once we save the building, how it could be, again, become an asset to the community.
How many
Can
people?
I tell you time and place?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it'll be from 7 to 9 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. this Thursday, the 8th, and it'll be at the Comfort Inn and Suites Hotel here in Geneva. Comfort Inn and Suites, they have a large meeting room there on East Fabian Parkway. So that would be the place, and we'd love to have people come out and see what we've produced and hear more about the structure and listen to our vision of what it could be in the future.
And when you speak of that, I mean, how many people are behind your effort, a part of the committee that you formed here? And has there ever been a meeting with this developer? I mean, if I'm the developer and I'm seeing there is a dedicated group that really wants to see something that's been there so long, they have their whole model of what it's supposed to be, I'm thinking maybe, if I go along with that, that's immediate business, or, at least supporters of your efforts.
Sure. Well, there's been attempts, but the developer has declined to meet with us. In fact, we talked during the second petition about forming a study group within the community to find an appropriate use for the blacksmith shop, and we got thumbs turned down from the developer. Wasn't interested.
What does the developer want it to be?
Well, not sure exactly, but the last time that I know that we saw was during something called a charrette, which was a community meeting sponsored by the developer and the city to understand what the developer wants to do. And they brought forth renderings of a very large apartment complex, about 115 units, plus 8 townhouses, and 155 parking spaces, plus commercial space, about 2,000 square feet. And they showed that at that time. I haven't seen anything since then. I don't think they've come forward with any other plans. But something like that sitting right on the Fox River by our downtown just doesn't seem like the right place to put it to us.
That was definitely the vibe that I was kind of picking up from you, that was the direction they were trying to go, like condos or something of that nature. So how would you actually restore this?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
How exactly would you restore this?
Okay, well, first we want to put it back much like it looked in 1845. In fact, we also had a local artist here who did a watercolor painting based on our model, and that's what's behind me. That's what you see back here. He just produced that for us because he's a true believer in what we're trying to do here. The first thing would be to restore it to as close as we can to what it originally looked like, and that it would not become a museum, would not become a working blacksmith shop. There may be some artifacts from blacksmithing in there, but what we really see is a building that would be devoted to economic development and visitor information center, because there's so much here in Geneva and the Fox Valley and Batavia and St. Charles, historical things to visit. We have some fabulous shopping along State Street and 3rd Street, which is renowned, and people come to the boutiques and places like the Little Traveler, who many people have been to. And we could use that as a place to provide information to people, where there's brochures, maps, volunteers who would be helping out there. So we could use it for that. The other thing that we have going for us is that there's a Fox Valley River Trail that goes right by this, because the shop's right on the river. And it goes about 20 miles north to Algonquin and about 20 miles south to Oswego. So we're right at the center. And it could be a hub there too, where you could put some washrooms in there for people hiking and biking, put out a boat dock and a launch for canoeists and kayakers, because there's a lot of that activity on the river. We're just a few hundred yards away from the Geneva Dam, where there's a portage where they take out the canoes and the kayaks to go around the dam. So we could see that as a place for people on the river, as well as people just driving by cars. So many people come in from the east on Roosevelt Road at Route 39, and it could be a place to get tourist information.
Let me ask you this. I mean, everything I see behind you and what I'm hearing from you sounds absolutely amazing, and it looks beautiful. Is there a concern in the city that the developer's idea, maybe without that, I mean, it is looking at economic development from a larger scale? Are people moving to Geneva these days, or do you feel like it would even be supported?
Well, several questions. The last one, Geneva's population has grown, but not rampantly, because we're sort of hemmed in right now geographically with the communities on either side. So there is some growth, but there always is concern, which I'd be very sympathetic with economic growth for the community. And housing is important to have, particularly low-cost housing and other types of housing for people middle and upper class as well. So we're very much in favor of that, but not at this location. It doesn't have to be where there's a historic site that's been landmarked. It's been named by Landmarks Illinois as one of the 10 most endangered sites in the country. Yes, build these things, but not there. That's just not the right place to have it, right there on the river.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, again, you have your meetings coming up. You've given us the information as to where people need to be for those, and you'll have to keep us updated. I'm invested now into hearing how this turns out.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to as many people that show up on the evening of Thursday this week, and we'll tell you more about our plans and what we want to do.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
3:30 right now. Very interesting stuff, when, again, as he said, when you peel back what's behind some things in the area, I mean, that has a historic landmark on it. So we'll see what happens from here. It's 3:30. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back. .332. I am so excited to have this next conversation. One, because it's with someone who has officially been named to the 2026 Forbes 30 Under 30 list in sports. Abigail McCulloch is joining me now. She is the founder of Alma Padel, and she's in the facility there in Glenview. Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you.
One, tell me your reaction to being named to the 30 Under 30 list.
It was a really exciting moment, primarily because it was this first sort of large recognition for the sport in the Midwest area where the sport's sort of just beginning. So it's an exciting time here in the Chicago area.
It certainly is exciting. Tell me about Alma Padel.
So Alma is a padel club in the North Shore of Chicago. We have 5 courts and a handful of social spaces. So our players are coming here to learn the game, to make new friends, and to find a new social and community outlet.
Mm-hmm. And I can hear them having fun behind you. I think this is awesome that we're doing the interview, as you can hear people really battling it out.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was hoping.
Tell me why you decided to get in on this, why you decided to found this, especially being under 30. Like, what is it about somebody being under 30 taking this on?
Sure. So growing up, I played every sport under the sun, racket sports and non-racket sports. And when I discovered padel in grad school at Wharton in Philadelphia, I knew that this was kind of the most addicting combination of all of those sports I'd played. And I was just in the right place at the right time. So I was able to apply to an accelerator. And once I gained entry, I used that momentum to bring the sport to the Midwest where I was raised.
I love this. I absolutely love it. I'm so happy for you, proud of you. And, I've been to one facility and seen, people playing padel. And I think when I went out there, it was during the rise of pickleball. So take us through what padel is and compare it to other racket sports.
Sure. Okay. So, like pickleball, padel is very easy to learn and it's very, very social. But unlike pickleball, it's a little bit more difficult to master. So it takes a bit of time. If you catch any shots behind me, there are a lot of powerful smashes in this game. On the court, everything is in, and you can play off of the walls that surround each of these courts behind me. Scored like tennis, played doubles, so it's really social. And it's a nice combination of all of the racket sports people are already familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we saw the rise of pickleball, we also saw the rise of a lot of orthopedic injuries. Do you think, what's the average age for padel? And do you think it will pick up like pickleball?
I think so. I am biased. But the average age here is, we're really pulling from all ages. High schoolers are actually, with winter break having just passed, are kind of got into it over that break. We saw a lot of high schoolers come into the space, and every night after work we have a lot of folks between the age of 30 and 65 plus playing. We have a group of men 85 plus that play Thursday mornings. Yes, yeah, they picked it up. They love it. And injury wise, everything is very low impact in padel. So you have cushioned turf on the ground. You have sand on top of that turf. Your racket is a thick foam racket. The ball is a depressurized, essentially tennis ball, slightly smaller. So everything is squishier. So far fewer injuries than you see on that kind of concrete surface for other racket sports.
And tell me a little bit about the facility there. What can people expect from the facility?
At Alma, we have, of course, we have the courts, but we have a co-working space, a cafe, a bar. We have saunas and showers in our locker rooms. We have a golf simulator, and we have actually quite a few of social activities off of the court. So our programming here runs the gamut of intro to padel and sort of introductory courses in the padel world to, salsa night, tequila tastings, all of that fun stuff for people who just want to enjoy the space.
Is padel at the pro level yet?
It is. The U.S. is a bit newer on the scene, but globally, the sport is played in 70 plus countries. And it's far more popular in all of those countries than it is here. So there are some incredible players across the globe, but we're still developing our talent here in the U.S. and especially in the Midwest.
Tell me about some of the things that, you've already done tremendous things by the age that you're at right now, but having accomplished these things, what are some of the things that you're trying to take to the next level? What are your goals at this point?
At this point, I'm most interested in growing the sport here in the Midwest. But I think the rise of padel is sort of it's a symptom of what people are looking for most right now, which is social connection and wellness that isn't, biohacking and tracking your every metric, but meeting new people, laughing with strangers, sharing a drink or a meal that is hearty and delicious and, Spanish themed, rather than, going all in on something that requires more tracking and more technology, but rather lends itself to just a sort of social wellness that people are craving, I think, post-COVID still.
How good of a player are you?
I don't want to brag, but I like to think of myself as pretty good. But then again, I haven't stepped foot on a court this week, so my skills are a little rusty. I'm mostly running the facility now, but but I love to play with all of our players that come through Alma, and we have a new instructor here who just arrived from Mexico. Was one of the top players there, and he's really elevating the game of all of the players here in the Chicago area.
How long? I mean, you said that it's pickleball would be easier to pick up or to master, but this could be picked up fairly easy too. How long do you think someone would need to be in learning mode to really get a hang of it?
Give me 30 minutes and I will transform you into a padel player.
What?
That's a promise. Just 30 minutes. That's all I need.
I think I might need a little more than 30 minutes. 30 minutes might be my warm up.
Oh, well, you'd be surprised. It is easy to pick up. But understanding the nuances of the walls and the different shots, that takes time.
Yeah. And tell me about the lessons that are offered there.
So we've got an intro to padel course for those that just are curious whether or not the game's for them. We have juniors clinics for younger players. We have an academy that's launching January 19th, a 10-week program to become a master of the sport. And lots of socials, Sip and Smash for ladies last Friday of every month. We've got leagues with 70 plus players in them, men's league and a mixed league. There's a number of ways to play. So if you're interested, you can find information about, padel, just, Google padel on in your browser, but about Alma at almapadel.com.
I think this is phenomenal. You are phenomenal. What do you think it says about your generation that you've come up with this?
It's a good question. I think we're looking for new ways to connect with the people that are our neighbors. And this is a really nice way to do it because it's a new sport for everyone at the facility. And so because you need a partner and you need 4 people on a court, our job is to connect you with new people that you'll get along with, that you'll have fun with on the court. And it's resulting in this kind of new wave of connection and appreciation for new experiences, at least in this area here. But I think it's something that everyone's looking for, and especially maybe my age group.
And let me ask you on the flip side of that, I mean, for young people, especially here from Chicago, who are seeing your success at such an early age and stage in life, what are some of the things that you would tell them about, entrepreneurship and accomplishing some of the things that you have?
Just do it. And Nike, don't come for me. I'd say just do it. But yeah, I mean, this all happened because I took a chance applying to an accelerator in grad school that was mostly reserved for tech startups. I got lucky there, and then I got lucky again finding the space. But all of that luck sort of came from taking the chance. So I would recommend others to always take the chance.
I am just, I'm amazed. And I'm so, again, grateful that we got to have this conversation today. I can totally see how you are on Forbes' list, and I wish you all of the luck going forward.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
All right, I might take you up on that 30 minutes sometime. Who knows?
All right, come on down. Sunday mornings, 9 a.m., all right?
I don't know, but maybe sometime. I'll hold some time out there.
All right.
Take care. Oh, my. I when I went out for the story with Padel, and it was pickleball, and I, was introduced to Padel, I remember I did kind of just an exhibition with them, and oh my goodness, I felt like Serena Williams at the end of it, in a very quick time frame. And I'm sure I look nothing like her on that court. But it's all in the head first and foremost. Do you believe? It's about 3:45, everyone. Let's take a quick break. We're going to bring in our reporter, Casey Cronus, for our final conversation today. And this is getting all of the buzz right now online. Orland Park is getting a new Amazon processing center. I mean, this is a major deal, a huge facility. Maybe we'll all get our packages a little quicker. We'll talk to her coming up after this. All right, everybody, it's about 3:47, and as I said, as we were going to break, Orland Park is really excited right now, the residents there, about some newly proposed development in this area. Now, I said it was an Amazon processing center as we were going to break here, but it's actually so much more than that. Yes, they'll have the warehouse component supporting the on-site operations here, but this is going to be proposed commercial retail development. A retail development there in Orland Park. So this is a huge deal. I want to bring in Casey Cronus now to talk a little bit more about it because you are speaking with the mayor. This is, I'm sure, one of those moments as a mayor when this is like you're part of your legacy to be able to bring something like this to your area.
Hey, Anita. Well, Mayor Jim Dodge is very excited about this proposal. Now, it is still a proposal. Tonight, there is a Plan Commission meeting set for 7 o'clock, and Amazon developers will essentially be pitching their plan to officials. They want a yes vote so that this can advance to the full board. Now, the concept itself is a little bit veiled right now. We don't have a ton of details, but as you mentioned, it will be a retail development. It'll be a retail store. Now, Amazon has other locations across the city and suburbs, including those Amazon Go locations where you can grab and go with snacks. They have Amazon Fresh stores in Tinley Park, Oak Lawn. But this location, I'm told by the mayor, will be a brand new concept. And tonight, Amazon developers will give more specifics during that meeting. So there's some questions from community members. What exactly is this going to be? We'll find out more tonight. But if it is approved, it'll be built at 159th and LaGrange Road. Right now, there is a former Petey's 2 restaurant there that shut down 2 years ago in January of 2024. So this development would go up there, plus on surrounding land.
And, you know, when you think about development, and we were just having a conversation a short while ago about Geneva and an issue there between, you know, a historic location versus the development that someone wants to bring to that area. This goes back into tax revenue, too.
That's right. And the mayor says that this is going to be a huge economic driver for the village, not only with the revenue that it'll bring, but also with job creation, jobs in construction, but also once the development is up and running, if it is approved, jobs at that actual retail store. So in its description to the Plan Commission, Amazon says that they will sell groceries, they will sell other merchandise, but they didn't specify if this will be an Amazon Fresh location or a totally new concept. They did provide some renderings to us, and Amazon did not go ahead and name it. As you can see, it just says tenant sign. So perhaps they don't want to go ahead and reveal exactly what the store will be called just yet. And especially if it is a totally new concept, perhaps Orland Park is kind of that first test site. So still a lot that we don't know, that we still are waiting to hear. But the mayor does want to make it clear to residents that this won't be a logistical plant. This won't be where Amazon trucks are coming in and out, moving packages to and from, that this will be a retail store, and it will be positioned in Orland Park's huge retail corridor. There's already a mall nearby, tons of restaurant options. There's a Costco just around the corner. Now that begs the question, well, what will this do to traffic, adding another big box retailer? There is a plan to extend Ravinia Road and to kind of connect it to the surrounding road. That, the mayor says, will hopefully alleviate some of those traffic concerns, but he says they are doing traffic studies and other studies to make sure that all their ducks are in a row if this does move forward.
And have they talked about, okay, if it does move forward, when would it be available for people?
We don't know when it would be available, but the mayor said that it could break ground as early as spring. And we know Amazon likes to get things up and running fast. So I would say this would probably be something that people can start shopping at in the next year or two.
Very interesting here. And I know, you've spoken with the mayor. Have you been able to talk or assess how some of the folks there are feeling? I mean, this is like one of our top stories online. So it's popular, at least from the sense that people are curious. But are you able to assess how residents are actually absorbing all of this?
And reaction online is mixed, right? As always, with anything that is new, any change. There's, of course, going to be people who are excited at the idea of it, but also those who think they don't need another retail store. There's already so many in the area. But again, the mayor said that he wants people to hear for themselves from Amazon tonight at the meeting, form an opinion then, and invites people to come and share their thoughts on the project during public comment. That'll be happening tonight during the Plan Commission meeting. So there will be opportunities for the public to weigh in on this.
I'm so intrigued at hearing the public comments, on something like this, because again, like you said, whenever there's development, you can see that there will be different views on it, but this is a massive thing. Did the mayor talk about, the last time they had something of substance that really came to the area?
Well, one thing, actually, next door, there is a Costco location, and most recently, the village approved for, I believe Mayor Dodge said, a couple dozen, maybe even a few dozen gas pumps that will be expanded at that Costco location. So that is something that just went through the approval process here. Of course, people curious about traffic. How are we going to get to and from? Is this going to increase commutes by adding a bigger concentration of people heading into that Costco area? That was approved. Those pumps haven't been built out yet, but will be soon. And so this is just one more item for the Plan Commission to take into account. Tonight, Amazon developers will be asking for approval for a special use permit, and then they will take it from there.
Yeah, and I'm also sitting here, it's kind of the opposite model from, if you think about, most retailers are trying to build up their online presence. So it's really intriguing to see Amazon, I mean, and most of them are doing it because Amazon is getting everybody online, but like to see Amazon flipping it and you're massive online, but starting to explore these retail opportunities on the ground.
I know. Isn't that interesting? And I just heard today that several new Barnes & Noble locations will be opening across the city. Remember years ago when they started to kind of shut all of those bookstores down? So it is nice to see those popping back up again. I think they announced 3 new locations across the city, one at the former Old Navy on State Street. So it seems that we are kind of trending in that direction where people want more of that in-person shopping experience. For so long during COVID, everyone stuck to online purchasing and, you know, dashers running our errands for us. But it seems like perhaps there's some of that nostalgia coming back with walking into a store and walking out with your items.
Okay, are you going to this meeting tonight?
So the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So we'll be handing it off to one of our colleagues who will be heading in and filming the meeting. But the meeting will also be streamed online. So in our 9 o'clock newscast, I've already chatted with our producer, Ryan. He will be running an update on what happens at this meeting tonight. So stay tuned at 9 o'clock. But to hear from the mayor, tune in at 4 and 5.
We will be tuned in for every aspect of this. Thanks so much, Casey.
Thanks, Anita.
All right, take care. 3:56, everyone. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we'll close things out. Okay, everyone, 3:58 right now, only seconds left here on Chicago Live. I think we've had some really great conversations today about things that are coming to this area, efforts to save other things that stand to leave the area, and then also some really exciting things about what's to come in the new year, whether it's your taxes or even the mayoral race as it's starting to shape up. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll be right back here from 1 to 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Right now at 4, Chicago's heating bills could go up